Hi, my name is Mia. Welcome to Scrubs and Savings. I'm a 22-year-old new grad nurse documenting how I'm living intentionally, spending joyfully, and giving generously. And today we are going to be budgeting my first paycheck of September. So before we budget it out, let's break down my entire paycheck. I worked a total of 72.1 hours during this pay period. So at my base rate, I earned $2,736.20. 27.1 of my hours were worked in the afternoon, so that was an extra $102.84. I worked 9 hours on the weekend, and that was an extra $18. Even though I didn't work on Labor Day, I guess as a full-time employee, they just add an extra 8 hours of your base rate since you work full-time. I don't really understand that, but hey, I got paid more, so whatever. And that was an extra $303.60. My company also gives me credits for a couple of my benefits. So that is $14.32 for long-term disability and 66 cents for accident and dismemberment. So my total gross pay was $3,175.62. And the reason why I decided to start breaking down each of my paychecks before my budget with these is because I wanted to give you guys some context as to why my net income is significantly lower than my gross pay. So my pre-tax deductions include life insurance, which is 73 cents, accident and dismemberment, which is 46 cents, long-term disability, which is $14.32, and I contribute 40% of my paychecks to my 403b. I live at home with my parents, and I'm really taking advantage of this high income, low expense time, so I'm just tossing everything that I can into my retirement accounts, and that was $1,264.26. And then as for my taxes, my company withheld $195.96 for Social Security, $45.83 for Medicare, $255.93 for federal income, $80.60 for state income, and $22.76 for city income. So my total net pay during this pay period was $1,294.77. I also received a pretty big graduation gift from one of my uncles. That was $1,600. And I just feel really grateful for all of the graduation gifts that I've received this year. It's really helped me achieve basically all of my financial goals. However, I sometimes feel very guilty about getting so many gifts because I know that there are so many people who need this money way more than I do. And I know I shouldn't feel that way, but that's how I feel, so that's why I try to give as much as I can. So with my graduation gift and my paycheck, I have $2,894.77 to budget. So recently I made the decision that I'm going to stop contributing to my wedding fund for as long as I still live at home, because I want to contribute as much as I can to my 403b, which is really in line with my major financial goal of hitting financial independence and possibly retiring early. So what I'm gonna do before I actually budget this money out is move the money that I had in that wedding fund into my emergency fund. So right now we're at $9,813.31 in my emergency fund. And I figured that if I move that money into my emergency fund, that means I have to contribute less to my emergency fund every month to reach my $12,000 goal, which means that by contributing less to my emergency fund, I can contribute more to my 403b. I hope that made even a little bit of sense. But let's get into the actual budgeting portion. All of my September expenses and savings are already funded, so we are going to budget all of this money into October. So for my monthly expenses, I need to set aside $157.83 for car insurance, $14.99 for my gym membership, $312.42 for my monthly donation, $17.99 for Epidemic Sound, and $15 for Canva. And then for my non-monthly expenses, I'm going to set aside $100 for car insurance, $971 for my driver's license and registration, $634 for ynab, $416 for gym maintenance, $1879 for nursing, $2709 for my Amex Gold, and I plan on getting the Chase Sapphire Preferred pretty soon, so I just want to set aside the money that I need for that annual fee, which is $95, and then $50 for Christmas, so $311.09 in total. And I don't have any plans for October right now, so I don't really need to adjust where any of this money is going. So I'm just going to set aside the money that I need for each of my monthly targets. So that's $65 for gifts, $50 for eating out, $25 for hosting, $15 for activities, $41.50 for yoga, $30 for beauty, $5 for entertainment, $100 for live events, $25 for clothing, $20 for things, and $17.01 for fun stuff. And before I put money into my emergency fund for October, I'm going to kind of base it off of the excess funds that I put into it in September. So we're just going to fund my apartment fund with $51.50 for right now and $250 for travel. So let's move back into September. And my favorite thing to do is round up these numbers. So I definitely can put 186.69 to round it up to $10,000. So that means I have to set aside $285.72 every month. So let's see if I can add an extra $400. So then I would only have to assign $228.58 per month. And let's see if we can reach 10,500. And that would allow us to only set aside $214.29 per month. So let's add another 25 cents. $25. So I don't have enough in my rate to assign to fund it fully for October. So we're just going to pull back by $10. So then if we move to October, I only need to set aside $212.15 per month to my emergency fund compared to the $397.50 that I was setting aside before. So let us just fund that for October. And then with the $660 that's left, I'm going to put it towards my knickknacks category because I'm not sure if I really want to do this, but I'm considering purchasing an e-reader that I can take to work during the night, so to keep myself up instead of just scrolling on my phone as one does, and instead start reading again. I actually had a pretty weird idea for what to do with my next paycheck, since I normally use both of my paychecks from the current month to fund the next month, but with the extra gift, I was able to fund all of October already. So I'm thinking that I might put basically all of my next paycheck into my 403b, just like bump up my contributions to like 90% so that I can invest like $2,500 in my next paycheck, which it would be really weird to see my next paycheck be so little. But that's why I also put my employee contribution into my ynab budget in my little tracking categories, because I get to see, even though I'm kind of sacrificing that money today, I can see my net worth grow and picture what that money will do for me in the future. I really think that's it for this payday routine today. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I really hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.